pleasant afternoon out there. It is Nigerian Now on Echo Television, where we look at stories as they unfold here in Nigeria. I am Sarah Elisha Dasham, and I'll be doing the program together with Rachel Tazi. Good afternoon, Rachel.
Afternoon,
How
Sarah.
you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
Fabulous. Thank you so much. And to our viewers at home, do remember you can keep a date with us on this program live on Facebook and on YouTube. Drop your comment, also your views on any of the stories that we will be looking at on the show this afternoon. And we'd like to start with the first one. We were aware that NLC started the strike yesterday, and we are in day 2 of that strike. And here we're seeing that federal government is coming out to condemn that strike because they feel like the strike is going to cripple the economy. And Richard, I think that it's imperative we weigh the two sides. I mean, we've heard the side of labor, reason why they are going on that strike. And then also we're seeing that federal government is coming out to respond. And this is coming from the office of the Attorney General of the Federation, that's talking about the Chief Justice. Here we're seeing that he has come out, or the office, the special assistant to the Minister of Justice have come out to say the fact that the strike that NLC is actually starting is going to really cripple the economy. They have come out to really say quite a number of things. The reason why they feel that this strike whatsoever is not really beneficial to anybody, because we're seeing that electricity workers are joining today. We're seeing partial compliance in some states. We're seeing other states there's really no compliance whatsoever. I mean, even students have been affected by this strike. Where I was opportune to listen to the interview being conducted to the TUC president talking about first use of C4, and he stated the fact that they are on this strike because of the assault that was actually being done to the president. So Rachel, we are having another school of thought that is feeling that yes, the assault for Joe Ajero is really Labour has the right to actually come out and say that we are not impressed about it. However, where people are kind of faulting the strike is where Labour is taking the whole anger on the entire federation. He said if it was Imo State, I mean, they can go on that strike in Imo State for as long as they like. But they're taking it on the entire federation. It's more like forgetting the main reason why the strike is supposed to start in the first place. We remember part of the things that they listed, the reason why they started the strike in Imo State, declaring of some of workers, ghost workers, pensioners, gratuity, and even implementation of the 30,000 minimum wage, which started since 2021, that Imo State government have refused to implement. Now, Rachel, I want you to try as much as possible to weigh these two. Here we're saying federal government is saying that we are trying to make sure that various sectors are thriving, and then here we're having NLC trying to take us back to square one. And here we're seeing NLC saying the fact that this is not just about Joe Ajero, but this is about the institution of labor, because they feel like an attack to Ajero is more like an attack on the president. And they give reference or example like that of Gaza and Israel, saying the fact that Israel had to retaliate because Gaza actually looked for their trouble. So I would like you to actually weigh these two and let us see how we can come up with possible recommendation on how to go about things in this country.
First of all, Sarah, the only thing that I've heard the federal government say concerning this strike is that it's crippling the economy, and then that that labor is going against court order. These are the only two things. But is labor really the one crippling the economy of Nigeria? It feels like an emotional blackmail. It feels like the federal government just waited for labor to go on a 2-day strike and start pointing one finger, while all this while the rest have been on them. It's not labor that made the exchange rate to be almost 2,000 at the black market. No. It's not labor that removed the fuel subsidy. It's not labor. It's not labor that made fuel pump price to be over 600, in some places 700. It's not labor. It's not labor that is causing inflation. It's not labor that is making manufacturers to leave the country. It's not labor that has refused to tackle oil theft. It's not labor that is not able to meet the quota of crude oil production and all of it. It's not labor that is crippling the affairs, the economy of this country is a 2-day strike. And they have been given this long period. Within the period of time, Labour kept on waiting on the federal government to act on what they need to act. The dollar, naira depreciated with over 200%, more than that. I'm just limiting it. But it went from below 1,000 to above 1,000, and we're looking at clocking 2,000 in the parallel market very soon. So the question to the federal government is Labour really the one crippling the economy of Nigeria? If we're going to be honest, are they the one crippling? Because it's just 2 days that it will cripple. Then stop it. Stop it. That is the point. If you say it will cripple the economy, stop it from crippling the economy. And how do you stop it from crippling the economy? Is doing the needful so that Labour can call off the strike tomorrow. It's that simple. And they keep saying contempt of court. First of all, it was an expertise that was filed to into the industrial court, whereby Labour don't have to be there. It's for the third party, it's for the outside party, that is for the federal government. Secondly, so there is a restraining order. A restraining order by nature is protective, is a protection order. It is put in place to protect someone from a situation, and it's mainly abuse, assault, sexual abuse, anything that has to do is a protection order. So why is the federal government getting a protection order from the court against
the economy?
They are protecting themselves from doing what Labour has asked them to do. It's that simple. They are buying time with the judiciary, and the judiciary is falling and is agreeing to it. How are you taking a protective order against a labor union that they've made a request, and all you need to do is to meet their demands, and you're getting a restraining order stopping them from going to strike? You're buying time for yourself to do the needful, and yet you refuse to do the needful. So who is supposed to be getting a restraining order? I believe it's the NLC that is supposed to be getting a restraining order against the economic assault that we are facing from the federal government of Nigeria. But it feels like the smarter one, or the faster one, or the one in power with the judiciary has gone faster and ahead of time and is doing the needful. So regardless of how the federal government try to take this round, it still comes back to them. The finger, regardless of how hard they try, is still coming back to them. Okay, if there was already, before the assault, NLC have already said on the 14th, Tuesday, they will be going on a strike. So if the attack happened to be in hand and Labour is saying now for sure we have to, that doesn't mean that weeks back they've already given a date. So let's not make it look like NLC didn't have a date for the strike, and then because their president was assaulted and they just cooked up a date from nowhere and just put it, and then that's when we will say NLC is stupid. But the 14th has been there even before this attack on the president, and if they decide to be drastic about it, it is in their own will to be drastic about it. But let Nigerians not make it look like this date by NLC to the federal government for the strike, if they do not act after a period of 30 days that has been given to them, that they have agreed to. If they do not act, this will happen, and it has happened. So I mean, it's just a back and forth. As far as I'm concerned, no matter how we keep weighing this, everything still falls back to the federal government of Nigeria. And until we are willing to agree and accept that, and until the federal government is willing to come to terms, I think the back and forth will just keep going on concerning
No,
this.
Rachel, you rightly stated, and you said, I mean, if NLC is actually making the just about the president of their own union, then it's kind of being selfish. But you know, a lot of other school of thought feel like, I mean, ever since the assault on the president of the NLC, that was when we saw them being so agile. So
yes,
it looks
and
more
extreme.
like it's no longer about what the people are going through. It's now about the institution, talking about labor. And we remember where a lot of time Nigerians have come out to say we are not happy with the way labor keep dragging the strike back and forth. Well, we are seeing that again. They are calling them this afternoon to a meeting, and this meeting is now being called by the National Security Advisor. And you know, questions will be more like, we keep seeing The first time it was the Ministry of Justice that is defending the federal government. Right now we're seeing that it's the National Security Advisor that is calling. And then you begin to ask questions, what is happening? I'm yet to hear the Minister of Labor and Employment coming out, okay, after my meeting with the President, this is what we have seen we're going to do, definitely, so please come back. Well, let's just keep our fingers crossed to hope that after this meeting, that is, if they eventually show up to meet with the National Security Advisor to see if they can actually have a dialogue about this whole thing, because eventually with the way things are going, there's blackout, no light. So I'm beginning to imagine the effect on low income earners, small businesses that are trying to strive as much as they can. I mean, not even imagine schools that are supposed to start writing exams that are not even writing the exam. Or we talk about a certain law case that's supposed to be filed, and then because the certain court in another state is locked down, all of this cannot take place. So when you look at it whole thing, Richard, I feel sad because eventually it is the masses that are still going to suffer from this, whether we like it or not. However we choose to look at it, it is the common man that is going to suffer from this. So I am hoping that the federal government will not take too long to act. That is the desire of every Nigerian, that the federal government should not take too long, because if this is day 2 and then with the way things are moving, I wonder what will happen by next week Monday.
More will join and all of
more,
that.
But more union will keep, and that is what NLC and TUC are even saying, that if, because they said they have allowed certain essential sectors to still be working. So imagining when they should take it drastic and then say even hospitals should be shut down, you know what that will mean eventually. So I am hoping that the federal government will not close a blind eye, and that they will act and do something about this. Now, we're seeing again, still talking about politics and the way Nigeria governance. We're seeing that the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar is coming out to tell other smaller parties, permit me to use smaller parties, opposition parties, to come together and merge and actually form one party. And the reason he's saying that is because he feels that the way things are moving in the country presently is more like we're having one party structure. And where we have one party structure, we're heading to a dictatorship, where it will get to a time that there will be no election, we will no longer be having democracy as we should be, and then he is actually afraid with the way things are, based on what he is saying. Now we'll have different school of thought of what they feel about what he said. Is this about your own personal interest because you are not the president of Nigeria, or because you feel that other smaller parties' voice is not being heard? What created the room for such fear, or what created the room for such suggestion, even though we know we saw that coming even during the election, where we saw different parties when they're trying to give their own take about how the general election was, different parties having press conference and all of that. But we're seeing that the vice president, the former vice president, is actually coming out to say all of these parties should come together and create one party, so that we can have maybe a stronger party when they all come together to put their forces together.
I mean, Stella, this just sounds like personal gibberish. I wanted to say rubbish, but maybe that would have sounded really harsh, because it doesn't make sense. APC having to be in power again for another 4 years would mean 12 years, and that's not dictatorship. If APC have been in power ever since the start of the Fourth Republic of Nigeria, then maybe. And then as long as election keeps taking place, it's still not dictatorship. As long as in the power, as long as in the administration or in the rule of APC, it hasn't been one person, then it can't be dictatorship. Is it okay for you to say, let parties merge? Perhaps it is important, because we're having too many parties, a lot that we don't even know about. And yes, it's okay for you to say, let them merge it. But for the reason to say that we're going to dictatorship, no, it doesn't make sense, because the same People's Democratic Party, since the Fourth Republic started, have been in power for 16 years. And then the APC has just been there for 8 years, and then they're just starting their another term that will add to 4 years and will be 12 years. And why wasn't it dictatorship when the PDP had 16 years in power? Was it the same president for the whole 16 years? Of course not. The same thing with the APC. Has it been the same president? No. The previous president has his first and second term, and now another administration under the APC is about to have its second and its first term, and who knows, maybe a second term. We don't know for sure, but it's not dictatorship in any way. I believe this is coming. It's just after the whole back and forth with the Supreme Court, this and that, and like, what is the next thing I'm going to say about this administration? It absolutely feels like that, because this is not what dictatorship looks like. And until, Sele, we decide to tell ourselves the truth in Nigeria, where the problem is, we will keep having this kind of back and forth, because I keep talking about democracy. It is not the problem. It's how we decide to run it in Nigeria, because we have other countries, world power, that are multi-party system, and just two parties are the popular. And we can use the United States of America, for example. It's just two parties that are popular, the Republican and the Democrats. Exactly. They are just the two-party system and they're popular. But have they grown in governance? They have. Have they grown in their economy? They have. Have they grown in politics? Absolutely, they have. You would be shocked to know that there are many other parties that have some key seats in the Senate, in the Congress, and all of that in this country. So if APC and PDP happen to be the majority or the leading party, there's no dictatorship there, as long as we have election and the people's mandate is being won. So the problem is in our electoral system, as far as I'm concerned, not in the party system, because it doesn't matter if tomorrow APC brings out a good candidate, tomorrow PDP brings out a good candidate. If power keeps rolling between them, as long as we get leadership right, there will be growth in Nigeria, and we won't even care if it's just one party, because in the end, it has been consistently giving us good leaders that will grow the country and take us to where we are expected to.
You know, Rachel, while you were talking, I couldn't help but, cast my mind back to those countries that are actually going through coup presently.
Yes.
And for every of those countries, one thing was very peculiar: bad leadership.
Exactly.
I believe that Niger wouldn't have had a problem if only things were working well. If the country was striving well, they wouldn't have a problem with them having a military leader. Same goes to Guinea, where we have the issue. I do not think that will have been the issue there. They wouldn't have mind him being on seat forever if only there was growth in that country.
Exactly.
And just like you said, I would really fault it where we have emerging and then we do not see growth. Because believe you me, Nigeria is a country, we've grown to a place where we are supposed to be seeing growth. But it seems more like, I don't know, are we going backward or are we stagnant as a country? It's really what you cannot tell. And I told you, it's quite sad when you hear people saying they miss the old back days. Why miss the old back days when things are supposed to even be more better right now than they were back then? I mean, did you miss when if you need to send a message, you need to write a letter and wait for it for weeks? Right now, you just have the, you have your phone, your email, in a matter of seconds is there, you get your reply. And so these are supposed to be things where to be moving. I mean, just like we're mentioning how many years PDP have been in power, how many years APC is presently in power. We clearly remember all of these parties promised a particular zone that after a particular time we would give you. But was that zone being given that leadership? No,
it wasn't.
So what makes you different from the other party? If you feel that merging is it more like trying to suppress it? Just like we say, we are not trying to be biased anyway, but we're trying to weigh things.
Every option.
Eventually, it's for the growth of Nigeria. We keep mentioning the fact that being a patriotic citizen of Nigeria is not about a party. If your patriotism ends with a party, then I'm sorry, I'm not a patriotic citizen of Nigeria. It should go beyond the party. It should go beyond the people, because parties don't rule. People rule, and that is what makes the party to be either popular or not popular. So we are hoping that behind all of this margin, whether it will benefit Nigeria or not, it shouldn't be about because we want to suppress this party. No, but it should be about we need growth for Nigeria. We need Nigeria to be one of those countries that when other nations are talking, Nigeria should also be giving that audience to also speak. Why? Because Nigeria has something. Because believe you me, a lot of time people have said that Nigeria is living on the past glory. We keep saying giant of Africa, but we're seeing other small African countries pushing us to the side. What is happening? That is to say that we have gotten it wrong along the way. And unless we go back to the table and say, where did we get it wrong and how can we fix it right, I think Nigeria will be stagnant.
We will be
So we are
stagnant.
hoping that we'll have leaders that will speak for the growth of this country. And beyond speaking, they will act as well to be sure that Nigeria will be represented worldwide and then will be celebrated. I mean, no wonder people keep asking, why is it that we have Nigerians doing well outside the country?
Not well on
They are
their
being
show.
recognized outside the
Yeah.
country, but when you're back here, nobody knows about you.
Yes.
What is the problem? So I believe that we are not a cursed nation, but because we have refused to realize the potential in this country. And unless we realize that, Rachel, we're not going anywhere. So I'm hoping that we'll grow and pass this level of
Yes,
doing
Seven.
things that really
True.
will not benefit anybody eventually. Well, Rachel, thank you for doing the
You're
program
welcome.
with me. And thank you to our viewers and also our supporters for keeping the date with us on Nigerian Now. Until we come again, do have a blessed day ahead.